Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Post Morning Show. I'm your host, Rdizzle408, with my co-host, Alan. The date is Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. Our topics for the day. What is the proximate cause origin of Epstein's arrest, according to Epstein himself? 2, ObamaGate. Key to the midterms? Deep state Dems must pay for treason. 3, Barack Hussein Obama's protégé, Zohran Mamdani, says divert police funding to social workers. Now to the first topic. I'm going to play a clip for us. Hang tight, guys. This is from Matt Morse TV. Very interesting.
I have some information I want to share with you guys that I think is pretty much going to blow your socks off. So on that note, let me go ahead and introduce you all to a guy named Michael Wolff, who's a political journalist that actually conducted over 100 hours of recorded interviews with Jeffrey Epstein between the years 2014 and 2017. Now, this journalist Michael Wolff actually had something very interesting to say regarding this entire situation between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Take a look.
Epstein believed that Donald Trump went to the Palm Beach police and said, Jeffrey Epstein has young girls at his house, thereby beginning the legal process which would ultimately bring Jeffrey Epstein down.
So, do you guys understand what that means? Jeffrey Epstein himself actually personally believed that in 2004 it was Donald Trump that first reported him to the police, which ultimately led to his arrest in 2006 and his criminal conviction in 2008. Have you guys heard about that in the mainstream media? Yeah, I didn't think so.
Okay, so that was news for me about that. Has anyone heard that before? What do folks think about Epstein himself saying Trump is the one that essentially brought down his empire?
News to me. News to me. Haven't heard that before.
And Chancellor, do you think Trump is sick of the news media, so he hasn't just come out and said it, or why? Is he playing a game? Right when Mark Halpern says, "Oh, the first time I've heard Trump said it that he was just angry at Epstein for stealing one of his employees," but it's like, well, yes, upset. It's stealing an employee and also allegedly abusing said employee, right? I believe this was the Goofrey lady.
I don't know. I mean, I find it how Trump sometimes talk can be in circles. I mean, he's not consistent in how he phrases things, and it's not beyond understanding or beyond comprehension that he would just simply be saying, yeah, he took my staff who were young people. And then, yeah, those were the young people that he took, and he's not happy about that. So two things can be true. And also, it's just Trump. Trump, I mean, have you heard him talk? How he talk about one day about something, another day about the same thing in a different manner? That's just him.
Yes,
I don't make any more than that. And if you ask me, considering all the other things that is on his table, you're talking about the trade deals, you're talking about illegal immigration, you're talking about dealing with Gaza, dealing with Ukraine. You think if I'm in his shoes, you think if any of us having to handle 20 of these issues, you think really I want to spend my time every day listening to reporters asking me about Epstein? I think I would probably be tired as well.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sham. So I'll add one last thing that Matt Morse goes on. I would encourage everyone to see the full clip. It's the links in the description. He goes on to say that it's not beyond reason to believe the Epstein files have been tampered with, casting further doubt on what is contained within the files. So
Oh,
that was
well, I
long
mean,
last.
Rahul, another thing, and especially if you've got within the Epstein situation that he's probably a foreign asset, that makes it problematic for you as the president. And you've got 20 other things that you're juggling, you know? I mean, of course, you got your people who started talking about it, but I do agree with the guy who said just now in the morning show that um, that what do you call um, that he he's just he just want to get this away from him. He's got too many other things more important to settle.
Yeah,
That's
I
my opinion. I don't know how others feel about it.
seems like the
Anybody
group
else?
is Epsteined out. But did
Yeah,
anyone
I
want
think so too.
to any last comments before we move on to the next topic? Any burning desires people have? They just need to say it about Epstein. Alan, are you thinking about anything, or are you just
I
unmuted?
was just thinking about the scene from Pulp Fiction where Bruce Willis says Zed's dead, Zed's dead. Like Epstein's dead. Let's just let him be dead. Like I'm done with this story. I've
Exactly.
made my peace with everything, and let the chips fall where they may, and then move forward. There's too much going on to be bogged down, like Shamsel says.
Yeah. Well, I hope that puts the nail in the coffin for at least some folks, right? That if it is true that Trump himself brought down Epstein, I don't know what more there is to say about that. Why would you get someone arrested if they had dirt on you, right? That would be the opposite of the thing you would do, is put that person in police
And
custody.
as I said before, why would he bring up the whole thing about Clinton and Epstein and the island in on at CPAC when Sean Hannity asked him? That's not something a human being would do if it's something that's going to connect him to a hideous thing that he doesn't want to have any part of. It just doesn't make sense. So I think he's just tired of it.
This, I mean, this is a theory, but I think it's a trap for the Dems. I mean, Vince comes on here all the time. Epstein was raising money for the Dems. I mean, at the time, Trump was a Democrat when he was friends with him, but he cut off contact with him in 2004. Epstein gets arrested. Trump knows, probably has an idea who's in the files, but he's making the Democrats be like, push to release, push to release, push to release. And he's like, okay, you twisted my arm, guys. I'm gonna release the files. Here's Bill Clinton, prominent Democrats, and then they're gonna you think they're stepping on rakes now. They'll just be in a field of rakes to step on, and they're just gonna get bashed and bloodied. Um, you know,
I think they're playing, yeah, Alan. I think they're bluffing with with the 7-2.
and the biggest thing is if the DOJ had all this crap on Trump, why did they
Mm-hmm.
go after him for 34 bookkeeping errors on a legally untested theory on a trumped up RICO case in Georgia? And on possible these weak cases, if you have him diddling little girls or trafficking kids, like you can throw him in jail, and like we'd probably rush the Bastille and string him up and take care of him for you, everyone in this country. So like if you had those goods, why are you playing a weak hand when you've got like a royal flush, all spades, and you're trying to win with a flush on the river? It's just stupid. Anyways, I'm done.
Yeah.
Alan will
Shall
defer
we
to the
move on?
gentleman
I
from
think
Ohio.
everybody is tired, Rahul.
Yeah, I agree with Shamsel. Everyone's tired. The last thing I'll say is I don't put a lot of I don't know the source of that video. I wasn't watching, just listening. Doesn't matter at this point, but I don't put as much. If that were the case, I think the administration by this point would have led with some of that information. Maybe not, but again, I'm done with the subject.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, Dean is speaking for the rest of the world. Okay.
Well, and to close out the topic, I wanted to say this, right? Trump's wealth comes from a real estate empire. I don't think anyone disputes that. What is the source of the Clintons' wealth, estimated by lovemoney.com to be $240 million, $500 million. For what? Speaking fees? I don't know about that. So anyways, that closes out that topic. Moving on to our next topic, ObamaGate. This is from Senator Chuck Grassley's government website. Further reports indicate that Stephen Halper offered George Papadopoulos $3,000 for assistance in completing an energy study and met Carter Page at a Cambridge conference. Given Professor Halper's intelligence connections and government funding, it is reasonable to ask whether he used any taxpayer money in his attempt to recruit Trump campaign officials as sources. The FBI, through Source 2, covered the costs of Papadopoulos' travels and paid Papadopoulos $3,000 for the project. The link to the congressional testimony will be in the description. So I'm bringing these things out because as we see more and more documents get released, declassified, this may be the smoking gun that we come across. So one quick clip, and then we'll get into the topic.
Something David Cameron should not have said. And immediately as I said that, he pulls his phone out like this, and I'm going to describe to you how I described it to the FBI, Mueller, and to Congress. Okay? He pulls his phone out and he's holding it like this, as conspicuous as this, looking at me with a stern look, and I'm sitting as far apart as we are, thinking this man is recording me. Or he's spying on me, or there's something going on that should not be going on.
And it's the only reason you don't say, "Are you recording me?" is because he's the High Commissioner and he's a big shot, and it's you wouldn't expect it.
It's one of those experiences where you feel you're in the Twilight Zone, where you think you know what's happening, but you feel that your mind might be playing games with you.
Okay, so ObamaGate is the proximate cause, aka origin, of TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Yes or no? The proof of ObamaGate is the unprecedented level of hate known as TDS. Yes or no? What do folks think? Because I just want to add, right? Where is the source? If indeed Western intelligence ran this whole frame up, right? That's what created this fury that is still occurring today. I don't think the conspiracy, quite frankly, has ended. Otherwise, people wouldn't be so on their high horses, you know, in terms of defending the Dems. So I'd like to open that up. What do you folks think about all of this that's going on? Has anyone even heard of George Papadopoulos before? Can we start there? Daryl says yes. What have you heard, Daryl?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, this is an old topic, but yeah, Papadopoulos was sucked up in some kind of intelligence operation around this Russiagate thing. But I mean, I look, I don't want to be dismissive, but there's really no point in talking about this because unless something more comes out, I mean, what's the point? I mean, I'm assuming most people know about who Papadopoulos is and was.
I thought he was a spy.
No, he was not.
Papadopoulos was a spy?
I mean, the reason I'm mentioning that is up until now, this coming to the forefront, there's unfortunately alt media, right, that, you know, spun it so bad. They smeared. I mean, the ripple effects of all of this is that you get into YouTube and you go, well, do I want to listen to that guy? He seems shady. So only now am I starting to dig into what was this whole thing about? How did they frame up, right? What is ObamaGate, right? I mean, what?
Well, thing is with Papadopoulos is he's really an insignificant person who got used in a larger scheme. So like he doesn't have any connection with Trump at all anymore. And, like,
Right, but without him, would there be a Russiagate?
yeah, they would have chosen somebody else. They chose him because he was just an easy target. I mean, the Trump administration was a mess when it first began, and they were just letting all kinds of folks come in, like Papadopoulos, who frankly this guy had no business being involved in anything with the Trump administration. He was like 28 years old, and he had no real experience. So he really had no business being involved, and he got wrapped up in something that was much larger than him. And he's just a pawn. Papadopoulos is just a pawn.
Yeah, I agree with Daryl. They were just casting a wide net, and he just spouted something that is just remotely, and even that is not that verifiable. So I don't see that as being the origin of TDS. It's a nothing burger to me, to be honest.
I mean, I think I would disagree a little bit with Shamshul. I think there is something there, but until it's revealed, like, you can only speculate. There definitely was.
Well, what did he say, by the way, Daryl, that you think there's something there? I don't understand.
Because there was another guy. His name was now I'm forgetting his fucking name again. He's a European spy. Who remembers his name? Who I'm talking about here?
Joseph
Mitzvud. Yes,
Joseph Mitzvud.
Okay, so this Mitzvud guy is central to this whole.
Right, they were posing him as a Russian asset when indeed he's a Western intelligence asset.
Yeah, so Mitzvud is a Western intelligence asset, and he basically tried to set up Papadopoulos by having these private meetings with him, telling him, "Oh, I'm going to connect you to people in Russia." And then Mitzvud also handed Papadopoulos a suitcase with, like, I don't know, $10,000-$20,000 in cash in it. Okay. Now, Papadopoulos, to his credit, was smart enough not to take that money. He took the suitcase and immediately gave it to his lawyer. And from what I understand, that suitcase is still in Italy, which is where the meeting took place. So and
what was that, Daryl? Sorry, I cut you off, but what was that 20K for?
What was what?
The $10,000.
What was that suitcase $20,000 for?
I don't remember exactly what it was for. What it was like. Here's this money. Here's the reason we're giving it to you.
Yeah,
I think that's part of. I think Papadopoulos was part of, like, why is this guy handing me a suitcase with $20,000 in cash in it? Like, it didn't make any sense to him either.
right.
But this Mitzvah guy, he's like a Houdini. He's an escape artist. Nobody knows where he is. When Bill Barr supposedly did his investigation during the end of the Trump administration, they actually sent FBI agents over to Europe to try to find this guy, and they used all their intelligence connections in Europe. The Americans did, and this guy, he's Houdini. He vanished, so nobody knows where he is. Nobody can ask him any questions. So I don't know. We're getting too deep into this thing, but the point is, I do think Papadopoulos is wrapped up in an intelligence operation to further this, Russiagate accusation. But until more information comes out, or somebody finds this guy, I mean, I don't know what we can do. It's still all speculation until you.
No, definitely, and we're trying to telegraph a bit here. We're trying to help our friend Mark Halperin, right, pull out this story. I think maybe it's just that entropy of the industry kind of preventing that. There's a suitcase full of cash, okay, but there's also $3,000 in cash, not from Joseph Mitzvud, but Stephen Halper. And this is what Senator Chuck Grassley has mentioned on the website. What is the source of this $3,000? Because we know from intel operations, when they hand out the cash, they mark down all the serial numbers. So in theory, these notes have serial numbers, and they're in some classified accounting logs. That is the potential claim being out there. So those are just things that we're throwing out for folks to further explore, right, as this thing is unpacking. Is there any other comments that people want to add to this? Duke, you've unmuted.
Yeah, I'll just add that Misfit probably didn't exist in the first place. It's much easier to disappear someone that was a false identity to begin with.
Oh, he's quite public, and allegedly, Duke, he met with Boris Johnson for like a year after 2017.
Really?
No, I think Duke might be
hard to believe he can just fall off the earth.
It was okay, let's be clear. It was like a Osama bin Laden situation. So whenever they found Mifsud, he's down the street from like the Italian, whatever, minister's office, right? Like, oh, bin Laden was down the street from like Pakistani intel, right? So again, we're getting similar patterns here, right? That's what we're trying to draw out. Before we move on to the next topic, I'm going to ask the gentleman from Massachusetts if he thinks there's anything there to this ObamaGate.
Well, all right. First of all, the word treasonous was used. You know, I just joined this conversation. The word treasonous was used, but not the word treason, as far as I know. Obama in the government, they are allowed to lie to us, and they're expected to. I mean, you don't disclose your strategies and before they come to fruition, and maybe not for a long time afterwards. So they're allowed to do this. Now, as far as testifying in front of Congress and lying in front of Congress, this is a slap on the wrist unless you're Roger Stone or something. So I'm not sure anything's going to come of it. I don't know to what extent a criminal investigation is warranted, but yeah, go ahead. But a congressional investigation might be very amusing. So anyway, that's what I think about this. But I don't see anybody really getting handcuffed and put in jail for any of this, including John Brennan or any of these other people. I just, it's a dirty trick. It's dirty tricks, but that's what politics is.
Frank, would you say that, okay, the noble lie, if we can phrase it that way, right?
These aren't noble. There's nothing noble about this.
Okay.
It's utterly destructive to America.
Okay.
And of course to Trump and that sort of thing and the voters who elected him. I mean, the arrogance and destructiveness is astonishing, and that destructiveness continues to this day, with a strategy of one party is to drive up the other party's negatives. I mean, and you do that by making the economy and the country fail. So this is really repugnant to me, and it's a reason that I'm not a Democrat, and I just don't want anything to do with that set of tactics. So does that answer your question?
Well, it leads to another question, Frank. Where do you draw the line between destructive to America and then outright treason?
Treason is a crime with, I think, oh gosh, I don't remember, 3 elements, okay? You have to directly aid the enemy, there has to be intent, and there's some other element. Now,
okay.
where's our Pete? Peter's not here.
Where are Grokkers at?
Yeah, where are our
Alan has grown up.
Wannabe attorneys or attorneys, but there, you can just look it up. It's everywhere on the web, and they'll explain what treason is. And this, first of all, it's not a foreign adversary, and it's not, So anyway, so I just don't think this is treason. I thought
treason can also be internal. I know we could be Googling this stuff as we're discussing, but I thought there was that.
Yeah,
enemies, domestic, foreign and domestic. That's the oath thing that they take. So I'm just.
Yeah, right. But treason has to do, I believe, mostly with foreign enemies. I just don't think of it as treasonous. It's sort of treasonous to the American spirit and that sort of thing, but it's not treasonous as far as I can tell.
So
As a
that's okay.
constitutional matter.
There's this thing of the Five Eyes that comes up, right? That the way that Obama got around the CIA and FBI can't, they would never do anything to us American citizens, is to go to the Five Eyes nations, which is what,
Sure.
UK, Australia, New Zealand, France.
Imagine this is a common tactic.
Yes, a common tactic. But so would that not then implicate foreign governments? Because the claim, to back up, the UK, when Trump made comments, the whole Muslim ban thing, then apparently there was a brouhaha, the British prime minister waited, and Stephen Halper said to George Papadopoulos, like, Trump, you got to tell him, never mention the British again or something like that. So does that start getting into foreign actors?
Foreign actors are always going to be interfering in our country. I mean, from the spies to to the diplomats, to the transnational corporations with British origins that are here, promoting their stuff. You're always going to have that. So, I mean, this whole idea about, oh, don't interfere with our elections. I mean, we interfere with other countries' elections constantly. And this is what we do, and it's considered good foreign policy when we do it. Anyway, so this is I'm just unimpressed by any of this.
Okay, appreciate that. Appreciate that feedback, Frank. Professor Kenny.
Yeah, hey, I just caught like the second half of what Frank was talking about, and I agree with everything he's saying. It's not treasonous, it's really deep down dirty politics, is the way I look at it. And you know, it's unfortunate. People still to this day, I keep bringing up with 2020. And by the way, I'm happy the way things worked out in the long run. But Joe Biden got 81 million votes. 81 million. And nobody to this day, I've talked to Chris Salizer on Zoom. Nobody can explain to me where the 81 million votes came from. Okay. And it still took what, 2 weeks or 10 days to figure out that election. Right. So, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. That's why I'm very opposed to mail-in voting unless you're overseas. I think voting for the presidency or any kind of vote is your most sacred role as a citizen if you choose to vote. And I think you need to get up and go vote. Now, obviously, there are people who are handicapped and stuff, so they need to be aided, but not 81 million votes worth. You know what I mean? So having said that, I'll just say that I still think they should look at this Obama thing, because I think Brennan is really guilty of his leaks and what he did, and he needs to be held accountable. I think so. Spicer pushes that all the time. It's about accountability. And I think Trump needs to, with the Epstein stuff, I think Trump needs to stop talking about it. I think Trump stops, and it doesn't even need to deflect. Just if I was Trump, I would just say, listen, if you guys got anything you want to bring to me that's credible, then I'll talk to you. Otherwise, I really want to move on from this and leave it at that. That's all.
Maybe
Can't
Trump has to
happen.
continue the story.
Right.
Maybe he wants the buzz because there's something else that's going on.
Could be.
So, and also because if things are released, it's going to look bad for the quote unquote other side. So,
Yeah.
this is maybe part of a strategy. It may not be
No.
unintentional.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was unmuted.
I just want to say one more thing, and then I'm sorry, Dean, if you don't give me a
No,
second.
please.
Here. Yeah. So here's what I've been thinking about, because we are a conspiracy theory based society with all of this information overload we've been experienced for 20, 30 years. But I think now we're starting to back off on it in the sense that, like, look, you're not getting any resolution from the Kennedy assassination. You're not getting any resolution from MLK. You're not getting any resolution from RFK. So I think now when it comes to Epstein, people are starting to realize, the Patels and the Bonginos of the world who were pushing this narrative and now got omelets on their face. I think the people who are into this will starting to back off it and say, we're not going to know. We're smart enough to know that we're not going to know. There's no magic bullet there that's going to give us the ability to move on.
We're starting to lose you there a little bit, Professor Kenny, but I'll add that, and I apologize I thought it was muted when Frank was saying this might be a strategy. No disrespect, Frank. What I was thinking of was when you asked maybe this is a larger strategy that Trump is deploying. I was thinking about the question that Mark Halpern asked Sean Spicer today in the show. Hey, why doesn't Trump, with this new information that is supposedly coming out, that he's talking about, he kicked him out of his club and, all of this stuff. Why doesn't Trump at least run it by his people so they can come forth with a strategy and go back and just take a look at Spicer's face? Like, are you freaking kidding me? That's not the way how the man operates. He just doesn't operate that way. And getting him not to say something would be darn near impossible, I feel, with President Trump. So you're not going to change. You're not going to change the current in the river. You got to just jump in and kind of roll with it, I think. But yeah, I would love for him to stop talking about things that or just focus on the things that I believe need more time and stop talking about those other things. But that is his nature. He will answer any question at any time. It's a gift and a curse.
And folks, just before we move on to the next topic, right? About this, I know we went back to Epstein, but about this ObamaGate, right? Okay, I'm seeing Sean Spicer and Dan Tarantine very friendly, very professional with one another. But is this a fiction I'm making up in my head, that Dan Tarantine's former boss, Hillary Clinton, almost ruined Sean Spicer's life, got him in jail? I mean, almost got him thrown in jail, right? This whole Russiagate thing. And Dan just sits there and smiles. I mean, is that not wild? Is that just politics, Dean?
I'll go a little bit wide on that topic and say that no one believes what they're doing is evil. And when two sides come together, I had to do it this morning. I had to lean into curiosity. Why is that David saying his worldview is so different on the Israel front? And I was ready to react, and I'm thinking, okay, I just want to be curious. And someone once said that no one believes what they do is evil. It's from their point of view, and they're handling the circumstances in the best way that they see possible. And what complicates this even more is when you put a layer of politicking on top of it. I think Professor Kenny is right. This is politics at its worst. I find it hard to see President Obama as doing anything treasonous or I just struggle with that. And again, maybe it's I'm being Pollyannish here, but I do believe that politics can take you past, over, under a line that you never think you would cross. But it's amazing what you can justify under in the category of politicking.
Well, since we're speculating, why don't we speculate on his noble motives for doing this? I think it does cross a line, to set in motion, the destruction of a person in a democracy in elected government. So, but look, someone talked about information overload. I think we have misinformation overload and propaganda overload, but I think we're lacking information and actual true information or verifiable information. And that's why we have to speculate. And to call it a conspiracy, this conspiracy theory business, what do we have besides our speculation? And, we could construct a graph okay, of reasons why things happen, and assign probabilities to it, and make a betting site where
Frank,
you
just to
could.
be clear, I'm sorry, Frank, are you talking now about Obama and the Russia hoax, or are you back, or just in general?
Obama.
In general, but I was
Okay.
talking about Obama and crossing
Okay.
a line. I think this crossed a line. Okay, it doesn't cross a line into treason, as far as I know, but it does cross a line in terms of the destructiveness and the I don't know, maliciousness of it.
Yeah.
So
Can I
this
set a
is
different frame? Well, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll just put a different frame on it. I'm a big Rush Limbaugh listener, and I remember when President Obama got into office, the line that the mainstream media captured from Rush Limbaugh was, and maybe you know it, "I hope he fails." I hope he fails. And that was the title, on the New York Times article. And that was how it was framed when Obama came into office. So as hard as it might be, I want you to put yourself into a frame of a Democratic operative or strategist that is looking over their shoulder. The Republicans have been told hold the line, don't let anything go. They're already reeling from the fact that they're not going to get their Supreme Court justice in I can't remember whoever became their Department of Justice head under Biden. Whoever his guy's name was. Anyhow, all that happened. And to top it off, Garland, thank you, Alan. They never thought this television star was going to get in. Everyone thought they were doing the right thing. I'm not saying it is right, but from the frame of back in late 2015 or 2016 rather, from the time he got off the escalator, nobody thought he was going to be serious, and I think people thought at the time they were going to put in some strong governors along the way, or roadblocks, or restraints, so the nation stays together. Completely wrong in the thinking, but I could see that I could see that happening, and I wouldn't call it, at least to date, what I've seen, I wouldn't call it treasonous yet, but very bad and cross a line. I'm in a complete agreement with you there, Frank.
Capsule?
Yeah, did you guys notice yesterday or yesterday when I was called up and I put down my my theory on how I see this Russiagate? Did you guys notice how Dan looked at the whole situation, how his demeanor was? I mean, Mark gave me 75% in terms of how I framed it. And then when it came his turn to answer, he wasn't happy at all. He was thoroughly unhappy. You must remember, right? Dan was the director for finance for Hillary when she was the New York senator. Okay? And what I did was basically draw a line in a sense that, number one, the Steele dossier was actually commissioned by the Hillary campaign and paid to, was it Michael Steele was his name, right?
Christopher Steele.
Christopher Steele, for what, $14 million approximately, for that Steele dossier, which then, so that's one. So that came from the Hillary's campaign. The Steele dossier came from the Hillary's campaign. And that Steele dossier was somehow then attached to the ICA report by Brennan. Okay? But here's the through line. Tulsi Gabbard was basically labeled as a Russian asset by Hillary. Russia again. Steele dossier is about Trump's being videotaped with prostitutes in Moscow so that he can be blackmailed by Vladimir Putin. Russia again, okay? And so I said, why is everything coming Russia, and going back to Hillary? It's a pattern. And I mean, it's very like Hillary to create this, whether it's Hillary or his team, but I somehow feel, and it sort of like brought me back to the House of Cards when I was watching House of Cards. And I said, that's Claire Underwood, you know? I just can't shake that. So, and I looked at Dan when he was answering. He was very unhappy. I don't know what you guys make of it, right? I really don't know what you guys make of it, but I saw Hillary's fingerprints all over it. I think Brennan was doing it at the behest of Hillary and convinced Obama to write the memo to characterize the ICA document, and Brennan went back and redid the document against the wishes of his own analysts. And then, before the declassification of the ICA, so the very next day, Washington Post reported that those ICA information. That's where that possibly would be a violation of the Espionage Act. So I do think that somebody's going to go to jail. And
well,
the
that's
most
with
likely
the permission
people...
of the president.
Excuse me?
That leak is probably with the permission of the president.
It doesn't matter, Frank.
He can
It doesn't matter.
whatever he wants.
It has to be declassified first.
He just
If
says
he
it's
doesn't get
declassified and that's it.
Yeah, if
but
they
it would
can't
have to be
find the
shown
declassification,
And
just to
they
be clear
can't
on the
find the
timeline. To be clear on the timeline, Frank, what you're saying is it would have to be shown through some memo that Obama declassified those documents before Brennan released them to the
But isn't that
to
the
Washington
argument?
Post.
But isn't the argument the fact that he if the president deems something declassified, like Trump with his whole problems when he stole those documents or whatever, Trump said, because I took them, they're automatically declassified.
Sure,
So
but
that
Obama hasn't. No one's
Obama.
asked Obama. He would have to come out and say that, right?
they're making
No,
these
but
documents up.
I'm saying the act of him
There are no
leaking or the act
documents.
of him doing that is the declassification. If
Well,
according to Trump's own arguments.
Haley, this is where, therefore, this is why I ended my what I said with this sentence, which is I said the more than likely way this is going to play out is actually a special counsel, because a special counsel will then go through all this and say, okay, did you declassify it? Did Obama declassify it? And Obama will have to come out and say, I declassified it. So that's what it's going to turn on. You know, at the end of the day, you're not wrong. So the question is Obama going to come out and actually take the heat on this? Okay? And I don't know whether that requires a written thing. Because why? If Obama was the one who leaked it to Washington Post, that may be one thing. But if it was Brennan or Comey that did it, that's another thing altogether. So I think that's the reason why I said it's going to end up with a special counsel. That's how I would do it.
Frank had his hand raised.
Yeah, okay. Listen, so any CIA employee can classify a document, but only the president can declassify it. Is that the idea? Why can't Brennan just declassify something on his own? And by the way, this document wasn't written. It was asked to be written. And then they write and then they concoct something. And that
went out. And that went out, Frank, after
okay,
it was...
Okay. But was there a classified stamp on it or something like this? Was this a registered document? So, look, I just don't want to get involved in whether it was classified or not and that sort of thing. It just seems like a mess, and there's so many ways to maneuver around that. It just doesn't seem like a useful a good use of time. Anyway,
I totally agree with Frank.
but I would like to have a congressional hearing on it. There needs to be some way to evaluate to what extent this was a horrible thing that happened.
I've said,
but also you need to penetrate to the American people because they're not getting this, and that's the bigger problem.
I've said from the beginning that regardless of if this is illegal actions or not, I think this is a horrible decision for the Trump administration to focus on right now. I think politically, this is only a losing strategy for him and for the whole administration, regardless of if it's justified. I still think politically, this is going to be a big loser for him coming up on the midterms too.
The gentleman
by the way,
from
why
Ohio.
do you think that, Haley? I just want to hear why Haley feels that
Haley
way.
and then Dean. Sorry, Haley. Shamsel, you're muted, but Shamsel wanted to just for you to expand on why you think this will be a loser in the midterms. You're muted, Haley. You're muted. Unmute.
My mouse wasn't clicking. I think just because I'm a person who doesn't like to look backwards politically. When even with the Biden and the mental acuity cover up, in politics, I feel like we always need to be moving forward. And unless there is a huge reason, like, really can't deny treacherous actions or can't deny like illegal, horrible things that have happened, I don't think we need to be prosecuting past administrations. I think politics, we need to keep moving forward. We need to stop looking backwards when it comes to all scandals. Because I think it's a political loser. People in this day and age, it's a 90, like a 24-hour news cycle. And we need to understand that too and move forward with the times. And if we keep looking backwards all the time, we're never getting anywhere as a country.
Okay. Dean?
I'm more sympathetic to that argument with regard to the Russia scandal. I don't really want to put a special counsel. I think that elevates it to a point. I'm going to say something that's probably or a little counterintuitive. If you truly want to get the truth, then yes, go for the special counsel. I'm not saying that I don't want the truth. I'm saying that the amount of time and capital that would be spent, or the political cachet that would be spent, the juice isn't going to be worth the squeeze. However, when it comes to the Biden piece, that is in recent memory, and we have got to make sure that a small group of people, look, the reason why that was allowed to go on is because we don't have a media that is truly independent. We've got a media that is of the left, and they were doing more to just bend over backwards to make sure that he stayed in power and explain, well, what the president really meant was this or whatever. That is the bigger issue in that must be adjudicated at some point.
Thank you, Dean. Now, to close out this topic, okay, and this will probably lead to a next show topic, right? But I'm trying to do my 2 times 2 is 4, and Nixon. People under him, he didn't order the Watergate thing, but it was just kind of done. And then I guess he took it upon himself, Nixon did, to, okay, well, it's related to me, so I'll take the fall. Whereas the claim here is Obama directed the whole thing, right? So that's what we're going to see in these declassifications, these FISA documents, right? Hopefully we'll get clarity over the next few months. And I think we're going to close out unless, Dean, I don't know if you re-raised your hand there or... Okay, great. All right, so moving on to topic C, last topic, defund the police. Is this going to doom Mamdani? Our favorite Democrat, Dan Tarantine, shared this. Zohran Mamdani planned to disband elite NYPD task force that responded to the deadly NYC shooting. Here's a direct quote from Mamdani. Today, the NYPD deployed the Strategic Response Group to harass and arrest striking Amazon workers as mayor. I will disband the SRG, which has cost taxpayers millions in lawsuit settlements and brutalized countless New Yorkers exercising their First Amendment rights. So that was Mamdani in December 19th of 2024, and here we are now. Haley, with your hand up, please unmute.
So I find it pretty funny. Not funny because it's tragic, especially after those 4 victims. I mean, literally their lives for nothing. For nothing. I don't know about this guy and his head trauma theory. They just died for nothing, my opinion. However, I think it is truly ironic that the first thing to happen, like in this news cycle in New York City, is something like this, like where a police officer is killed, and the defund the police guy is the #1 like candidate for mayor. And if he was mayor, he would be handling this. So it's just such an ironic situation. And the fact that he's not even in the country. And like, I just think it's like the biggest ironic situation that we've had so far this year. I think he's trying to moderate. Obviously, he cannot be the mayor of New York City with a defund the police. It is just not possible. NYPD is such a force in the city, and force for good. I mean, they really are one of the best police, commissions like in the country. They really do extraordinary work, and their police commissioner now is a hell of a woman. After I don't know if anyone saw the press conferences, but she's really on it. And so I think he has a pretty big dilemma when and if he comes back to the country. Just kidding, he will. He has a dilemma. He has a problem on his hands because either he can support the NYPD, which I think would put him, over the threshold for winning. Like if he went all in and said, "Let me support the cops," and change his rhetoric, he has a much bigger, like his shots are just going to go up. But this could really hurt him. This could be one of his biggest weaknesses on the campaign trail, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for that, Haley. Yeah, my suggestion to Zohran would be to do one of his comedy rap videos. Hey, yo, buddy, I was against the police back in 2024, but I'm all for the police now. Bad boy, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? All right, that was my Zohran Mamdani rapper impersonation. Duke from North Carolina.
That was fantastic, Roll.
Oh, thank you.
He
It really
failed.
was good. Well, I'll preface this with I am in no way, shape, form, or fashion for defunding the police. But my daughter, who has her master's in social work and mental health, came from Boston to Durham, North Carolina, to start up a alternative response team. Not to take away from the police, but in addition to. And she told me a story because I thought it was all a bunch of crap. But when she was in Boston, she told me the story of a mother whose 20-year-old son was having a mental health breakdown, a black young man. And the mother was afraid to call the police because she said they'll just come shoot him. And that'll be the end of it because he did have a knife, but she happened to be on scene and was able to help talk him down and get him the help that he needed. Long story short, she came down here and it was just like a startup of a company. There was nothing, and they said start us an alternative response program and create it from scratch, and she did, and it's very successful. The whole triage for the 911 center, she built that so that mental health people don't get sent out to armed robberies. But there is a place. It's a 3-person response team. I think there's 12 teams now. A peer, someone from the area, an EMT, and a mental health professional who get dispatched to scenes that have been triaged to know that it's safe. Now they have some co-response teams too, where they send a cop and a mental health professional. But cops are sent out to fix the situation, and they don't always have the tools that they need to fix it. So I'm just saying that they're, like I said, when she first told me about it, I thought it was just a bunch of liberal garbage, but I have seen how it works, and that there is a place for it, and I think more cities need it, because this guy obviously had the guy in New York obviously had some sort of serious mental health problem, and was he getting the help he needs? And was it long-term help? Because that's another thing that they not only, when she sends a team out, they not only de-escalate the health situation, there's a lot of follow-up to help get the person the treatment that they need.
Thank you for that, Duke. Alan?
I think to some of Haley's points, I mean, she's boots on the ground in New York City, as well as Professor Kenny. He's not on the call anymore. But if I were working for Adams as like a consultant, I'd advise him to Rudy Giuliani this situation like Rudy did during 9/11. Rudy's poll numbers were in the tank at that point, and Adams has to step up his game and really handle this crisis to make an impression on the voters. I mean, what are your thoughts, Haley, on that advice of handling this situation and sort of staying ahead of Mamdani on it?
So Adams, unfortunately, I don't think has a shot in hell in winning. Even though he is very good with police. I mean, that's his bread and butter. It's where he comes from. So this is his issue, and he has been at the forefront so far. I mean, he's doing exactly what is required of him and doing a good job at it. But he just doesn't have a shot in hell. He in the poll that Mark sent last week, I think, when he did the poll on the New York City mayor's race, the only person that really has a shot is Cuomo, but only if it's a one-on-one race. If let's say Adam or Cuomo decides to drop out, it's still going to be at least a 3-person race with Sliwa. Now Sliwa, as what I've been hearing, is also gaining traction. He has about 20 to 23% averaging right now, which is interesting. And I think that's only because it's Mamdani on the other side. Because if it was Cuomo or Adams, Sliwa would never have I think higher than 10 to 15% of the vote. I still don't think he can win either, because I just don't think that there's going to be enough New Yorkers who are going to be okay with electing a Republican, no matter what, even if it's over Mamdani. But in regards to this situation, it really depends, I think, if this is going to be an issue closer to November. If they keep this alive in New York City, if they keep this story, this tragic story going, then the other two might gain more traction. But if something else comes up in between now and November that favors Mamdani, I think they're screwed. For the betting markets, I heard have a 73% Mamdani chance of winning. And I really think that these two, one of them has to drop out, and then they have to seriously focus on a policy, but neither one of them have it. So it's his to lose. It's Mamdani's to lose.
Thank you for that, Haley. I'm throwing an unmute to Maura. Curious, Maura, if you have any thoughts on the topics today or anything else on your mind.
Yes, sorry I've been so quiet. And it's bad because I really, and I should have an opinion on it. I'm just I'm not so interested in the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and I should be. I just don't know why. I don't. I know. Hi guys. I feel like I just have so many other things going on that this really hasn't caught my eye, and it should. Like, I understand that it's bad and like all this stuff is bad and people shouldn't be like abusing children, but I feel like when it's stuff in the past like this, I just can't grasp onto it with as much passion as everybody else.
Does that apply to ObamaGate as well?
Yeah.
And what about Zomam?
Yeah, since that's more current, I am concerned about that. I'm figuring out where I want to end up next year for school, and like I know it sounds like blowing things out of proportion, but if he does get elected, I just would be more hesitant about going to New York, because although he can't do a lot, like I think that it would just change the whole vibe of New York City, and like things like what happened like a few days ago, I think would be handled much differently, and I don't think that's good. So yeah, the Mamdani stuff I'm definitely more like keen to, and I'm curious to see what will happen.
If you wouldn't mind letting the viewers know where you're chiming in from.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey, but next year I'll be moving next year for like my next steps of medical education. So we'll see.
Over on the West Coast, we think
what Moira has to say, like every word of what she said, I second.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I was just going to ask, is it New York and New Jersey? Is that a rivalry, or is that just something we think in the West Coast?
Maybe I don't know about a rivalry. We kind of all have the same vibe. Like I was in New York the past month, and like everybody kind of acted the same, like the same attitude, like the same like way that you talk to each other. So I'm not sure if there's a rivalry, but we kind of act the same.
I think it's just like a joke kind of cultural vibe. Like when you, let's say, I remember going to like a Bon Jovi concert one day, and he was playing in New Jersey. He wasn't playing in New York, for example. So like when he plays in Jersey, he's a Jersey boy. So he's like, everybody's like, oh, it's a New York show. It's a New York show. He's like, no. This is New Jersey. Like, it's like when you get off the plane in Newark, they have I Love New York t-shirts. It's like, no, guys, it's Jersey. But like they try and play it off as New York. It's funny, but I don't think there's a real rivalry.
Yeah, we just like soft bully each other, but that's like our sense of humor, so it's funny. But
there's a bigger rivalry in New York and Boston than New York, Jersey.
So where do the Jets play?
Oh, true. I don't even know.
Where do the Giants play? Okay.
They're in Jersey. They are New Jersey teams.
Okay.
Where do the 49ers play? They play in Santa Clara. They're still SF. Anaheim Angels. What is it? The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. It's kind of funny. Sorry, that was a little West Coast. You guys are, he's talking about California again. That was a little fun at the end there. Peace, love, understanding, and respect. That's a plur, that's a play for the ravers out there. That's a little tweak on that. But I think that was a nice positive note, folks. We're going to close out here, and please stick around for a non-live portion, 10, 15 minutes where we, get to just keep making jokes on one another. And give me a second here. I have too many outros. I hope I play the right one. Here we go.
Hey, it's Rahul's Stunt Double. That's a wrap. Join us tomorrow and kickstart your morning with us. Head over to postmorningshow.com and join us on the Post Morning Show Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Pacific, 9 to 10 a.m. Central, 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern. Don't miss out. Join the conversation live at postmorningshow.com. See you there. Set your alarms, grab your coffee, and join the fun. Postmorningshow.com. See you bright and early.